Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Pray Podcast, the summer series Faith and Work. We're so excited to have you joining us for this series as we interview and talk with people from the community and people that have impacted the community. So, whether you're an alum of the college, a student, staff, faculty, a parent of a student yourself, whoever you are, whether you're from the community and you're just interested in learning more about these people, we welcome you here because today we have a very special guest and a good friend, Sherri. So why don't you introduce yourself to us, Sherry? Tell us a bit about who you are and kind of your background around that.
Hey, thanks, Andrew,
Yeah,
for
of
having me
course.
here. Yep, my name is Sherri Berg. Lived in Three Hills my entire life. I have husband Glenn, and I have two grown daughters
Okay.
and a grandson.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So, Sherry, you've been in Three Hills for a long time, and recently you've had some rising fame, at least among the college students, for a particular business in town. Would you mind sharing with us a bit about that business and what's going on over there?
Sure, I'll just give you some background.
That'll be great.
I worked in Three Hills as a dental assistant for
Okay.
39 years. And it was just I enjoyed my job, loved my job, just time to maybe think of something different.
Hmm.
Good friends of mine suggested maybe they build me a bake shop and
Hmm.
I start something that I've always dreamed of. So everything just started kind of falling into place. And I am now the owner of Busy Bee Bake Shop.
Okay, that's really cool. It's a wonderful little location on the west end of town, and you've done some pretty cool work there. I've seen some of the cakes and some of the baked goods. They're
Thank
delicious as well.
Thanks.
So, in your work, first off, curious, how long has the Busy Bee been operating exactly?
This July will be 4 years
4
since we've
years.
opened. Yeah.
Okay. So, in 4 years of experience, I'm curious. Do you kind of what's your favorite part about it? Do you have a story or two or an experience that
Yeah.
that sticks in your brain as that's a really cool moment?
Well, first of all, when I started, I really didn't know what I was getting into. It was suggested that this would be my retirement.
Hmm.
Not so. I've never been so busy in my entire life, but I enjoy it. I love people. I love meeting people. And coming from a dental office to a bake shop, people are much happier to see me. So I enjoy that part of it. It's always a joke because I always, my boss at the dental office, I always teased her that I'm still working for her. Now I just give them the sugar and send them her way. So we have a good
Yeah,
partnership.
you're feeding
Yeah.
the people there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's been a learning curve. I didn't
Hmm.
really know what I was getting into, but step by step, it's kind of moved forward. Um, but yeah, my favorite part is the people, seeing the
Hmm.
people, meeting the people. I get a huge variety. Lots of visitors come into town. Lots of students, love having the students,
Hmm.
and just a lot of the locals. I think it's a safe, warm place to come. When I started this, I told my staff that what I wanted it to be was a combo between friends and cheers.
Yeah.
So just a nice, welcoming place,
Hmm.
and I think we've accomplished that.
Well, that's really exciting, and I can attest to that. I've seen the work that you guys are doing there and the environment. It's a very welcoming space, community space, very bright and cheery. I think that's fun. Okay, could you give us a little bit of greater detail? You can say this is a promo if you want, but what exactly does the Busy Bee Bake Shop offer? What kind of services are you guys doing there
Okay.
exactly?
So Busy Bee is kind of in a combo with the Honey House.
Yep.
So the Honey House is owned by Golden Acres Honey. So they offer all their products as well as, the coffees, the ice creams. Busy Bee is part of that building package where I have my bake shop and they've got their products. So we get lots of people coming in from Calgary to buy their retail.
Yep.
As far as what the Busy Bee does, we do all the breakfast, the lunch items. Almost another area where I do a lot of custom cakes.
Okay.
We've branched out a little bit into what I would say, not necessarily catering, but food to go.
Hmm.
So we do lots of functions. People come pick up their food, we have it all prepared, and they can cater their events.
Hmm.
So, yeah, lots of different areas.
Certainly. I actually think we did a staff and board potluck and we got chili from you
You
guys.
did.
That
Yep,
is
we
correct.
sent out over 100 bowls of chili for
Wow,
that.
and it was
So,
good. It was very
thank
delicious,
you.
so well
Thank
done.
you. Thank you.
Oh, and maybe this is actually a key distinction to make between the Honey House and the Busy Bee Bake Shop because I think they get mixed up
Yeah.
quite often.
Yeah.
Okay, but you guys are working together
We
here.
are.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I
okay.
think, because most people come there, a lot of people just know it as the Busy Bee,
Yep,
right?
yeah.
But it is at the Honey House. Yeah.
It's good to make that
Yeah.
distinction. Okay, so I'm curious, Sherry, turning back to yourself a little bit away from the business, you gave us some of the background of your work experience. I'm curious, could you give us a bit of a background on your faith journey
Yes.
and where you've all been going through that? I'm curious if you could give us that background.
Yeah. Well, my faith is certainly the backbone to my
Okay.
business.
Yeah.
Getting into a business like this, there's lots of areas that, well, most areas you just have to trust
Yeah.
and know that, he's got it. And the way everything kind of came into play, it just didn't happen randomly.
No.
Like doors were opened, some doors were closed. Everything just fell into place in a way that I could not have orchestrated,
Yeah.
which to me was a sign that this is where God wanted me.
Mm.
Um, I feel blessed with the support that I've had. My faith goes back many, many years, from the time I was a little girl, grew
Mm.
up in Three Hills, grew up in the church, grew up
Yeah.
in a good family, became a believer at an early age. So, just seeing how God works
Mm.
in different ways, and it's strengthened my faith and it's taught me to
Mm.
just rely on Him when it doesn't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
He's still there. So,
Well,
yeah,
that's really wonderful to hear that, and
yeah,
kind of you've got a heritage of faith there, kind of backing up that builds now into where you are
very
today,
much. Yeah,
and some of that reliance there.
yeah.
Okay, so I'm curious. You mentioned a little bit. I don't know if you could go deeper for us into how does your faith actually impact your work at the Busy Bee, or does it affect what you do or the way you interact at work? I'm curious if you
Yeah,
could expand that
yeah.
for us.
My faith is my foundation.
Yeah.
I hope through actions that people see and feel that warmth.
Hmm.
Um, I have an amazing staff, and they play a huge part into that. I think, growing up, my dad was a postmaster in
Hmm.
Three Hills for 35 years and a very personable, love people kind of guy.
Yeah.
So I saw that in action. I saw my mom's faith. She was a homemaker. Um, Love baking, love cooking. We always had guests over, very
Hmm.
hospitable. So I think, I saw their faith in action. And I think seeing that, that's what I want to live out. And I
Yeah.
think that's my faith, just, living out and doing what I can to make a difference in other people's
Mm.
life. And,
Hmm.
I don't think I'll see the difference it makes sometimes, but I
Hmm.
hope and pray that it's there, that we do make a difference.
Hmm.
Um, just a prime example, I did have one person come up to me and he said, "Do you see that chair over there?" And I said, "Yeah, yeah." And he
Hmm.
said, "Well, I just want to let you know that I accepted Christ on that chair."
Wow.
So that's the kind of thing that, I hope I hope the things I do makes a difference in other people's life. But at the same time, that makes a difference in my life.
Yeah.
It gives me a purpose, and I
Hmm.
see that God's working
Yep.
in pretty incredible ways.
That's really
Yeah,
cool. What an encouraging
yeah,
story. And
yeah,
I think what you're saying there is really key about building an environment and a space in which those types of encounters can
yeah,
happen and influencing
yeah.
that.
I think we should mention this encounter between you and me
Yes,
right here.
exactly. I was going to
Yeah.
bring this up because I have been impacted personally by you.
Oh.
And it's actually been a big blessing. So you could almost say I'm married because of you. Maybe not entirely, but why don't you share it from your
Okay.
perspective? Yeah.
I didn't know you.
Yep.
You had introduced yourself to me a couple times with different, work-related things where you're coming in for different
Yeah.
functions. And then one day you just shared with me that you were getting married,
Yeah.
but you didn't know where you should propose,
Yeah.
that nobody knew this. This was top secret
Yeah.
that you were getting engaged, you were going to propose to her.
Yeah.
So, wondered how to go about this and where you should get,
Exactly.
engaged.
I've been looking for locations. I couldn't. I just didn't know where to do it. It was in February. Maybe that would explain a bit of it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I thought about it and I said, well, I gave you some different ideas. And I said, there's this place just across the river from Tolman. It's up on a hill. They have a fire pit. They have a picnic table. There's no people.
Yeah.
I said, I think it would be really romantic.
And
And you left with those ideas
yep,
and
it worked out. I went exactly to that spot there. It was perfect, went
awesome.
well, and the river was frozen over, and so we went skating on the river, and we had a wonderful time, and I proposed, and so I always say, "If you want some help, go to the Busy Bee." Uh, but,
Oh,
it was actually a really sweet moment, and
yeah.
I don't know what it was because, yeah, we didn't really know each other that well, and I hadn't
No.
told many people, but maybe this is a testimony to that welcoming environment. It felt like a safe space just to say, "Hey, this is something I've been thinking about, and you seem like a person who's got ideas."
Yeah, well, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's what I like.
yeah,
Like, that's what makes my job fun, right?
mhm,
Not all the baking,
yeah,
not all that stuff. I mean,
yeah,
that's great. I actually, to be honest, don't do as much of that. I always say I have this incredible staff that does all that, and I'm
mhm.
just the bossy one.
You're just the one that tells
So,
them to do it.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah,
so, as time goes on,
mhm,
I would love to spend more and more time,
yeah,
interacting with people and
mhm,
visitors. And, there's people that come from all over the world
yeah,
and they're just passing by, passing through, and so
mm,
that's what I like is
yeah,
I want to try to be the face of the business where I get to go down and I
very
do the
good.
fun job. I
Yeah,
get to visit with them, meet them.
yeah.
So, yeah.
And that's it's a really exciting thing, and
Yeah.
just an encouragement. You do a really good job of it.
Thank
I
you.
think you're well fit for that. And I
Thank you.
think you can see what you've already mentioned of God leading you through that and giving you kind of the encouragement or the courage, and then also the staff that enables you to do that.
Very much so.
Okay, so you mentioned something a little briefly that I want to bring us back to and see if we can talk about that a bit further. You mentioned looking up to your dad and your mom as
Mhm.
role models and how they live their faith out. So I'm curious, were those the primary motivators for kind of how you are living out your faith at the Busy Bee, or are there some other examples that you found that kind of inspired you to do that or encouraged you in that way?
I think, if you want to look at the whole package, they would definitely be
Okay.
my inspiration. I
Hmm.
was like more than blessed to grow up in a family like I did.
Hmm.
I have two sisters, and I should mention too that they have been a huge blessing.
Hmm.
They have given me tons of ideas.
Yeah.
They've walked me through a lot. They've listened to me when they were probably just wished that I would talk no more about it, but they have supported me in it too,
Yeah.
and are still continuing to say, "Hey, have you thought about this? What if we did this?" So that's massive. So super blessed with a good family. And
Mm.
my girls as well. It was my daughter Stacy that said, well, I said to her, I wonder what we should call. I don't know what to call my business. And she says, I think you should call it Busy Bee. She goes, you're kind of a busy bee. And I said, well, it works with the honey house.
There you
So
go.
let's do it.
Yeah.
So, both my girls and,
Yeah.
my daughter Lisa's in town and she's, gives me good ideas. And,
Mhm.
you know, I'm not a journalist. I don't pretend to be. She's got the ideas for writing different things. Like she's a huge help in that area.
Mm.
So yeah, a big inspiration, and I watch my parents as they, growing up in a small town, of course,
Yeah.
my grandparents did as well. So
Yeah.
everybody knows my grandparents to my parents, now to me.
Yeah.
So, I think that's worked in my favor,
Yeah.
opening a business.
Mhm.
People knew my family, they knew me. They're
Yeah.
very supportive because of that. And that's a huge thing.
Well,
Yeah.
certainly, and I think that's it's a good foundation, and
Hmm.
I think we've already talked about
Hmm.
this multiple times that having a strong faith foundation, and you got strong role
Yeah.
models, and got sisters who can come alongside
Yeah.
you, and that community
Yeah.
is really able to encourage you and inspire you
Hmm.
to do what you're already doing. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's really
So,
wonderful.
yeah.
Okay, I've got one last question for you here before we finish off this
Mhm.
episode. And this, once again, kind of comes back to you personally. Something I always love hearing from people is, what is God teaching you specifically right now? Is there something in particular, maybe a verse He's brought forward, a reminder,
Mhm.
an encouragement? I'd be curious to hear from you if you've received anything lately.
Yeah, oh my goodness, I don't know where to start on that one. Yeah, he teaches me things every day. I think the
Hmm.
most important thing that he continues to have to remind me of
Yeah.
is, be still and know that I'm God.
Hmm.
I get very busy. I get going in about 100 different directions
Yeah.
and I tend to get more wound up sometimes and, just multitasking things where I just need to stop
Yeah.
and go, okay, like what is he trying to tell me?
Hmm.
Like he's with me. I don't have to panic about this. And just really take a deep breath and rely on him,
Mhm.
and I remind myself of that every time. And then comes the next time, and I'm like, oh, yeah,
Hmm.
I don't have to stress about
No.
this. I can hand this one over.
Okay.
So I think for me, that's what he's teaching me the most
Hmm.
is, I know I'm not doing this on my own.
Yeah.
And so just to know that he's got this,
Yeah.
and I believe that, if he's placed me in this spot, that he's going to work things for his good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. And
Yeah.
it's a good reminder. I think in our culture, our community, whatever it may be, we tend to be busy people.
Hmm.
We
Yeah.
get to we do a lot of stuff and we feel bad if we're not doing a lot of stuff. And so a reminder to be still, to know God. I think it's a
Yeah.
great reminder. So thanks for sharing that with us,
Thanks,
Sherry.
Andrew.
And thank you for coming on the podcast here. I always appreciate hearing people's stories, and it's really good to hear your story and your perspective
Thank you.
on a lot of things. So I'm curious, before we end off, do you have
Mhm.
any final thoughts for our listeners? Anything else you want to share?
Nothing that comes to mind other than you are always welcome at Busy Bee.
There you
We
go.
love having people, new people. I love being introduced to different people. So you are always welcome. We love to have you.
And that's awesome. And that's exactly it. So if any of you want to check out the Busy Bee Bake Shop, make sure you head over there, grab some cookies, order a custom cake, whatever it may be. They do some excellent work over there and things taste delicious.
I should mention too, if anybody's
Yes.
interested,
Yeah.
my Instagram is Busy Bee Sherry.
Okay.
And so on that Instagram, you'll see a lot of what Busy Bee is about.
Mhm.
Um, Still working on that website. Been 4 years. It might take me another four, but
but
that's going to
well, you'll
happen
get there.
eventually. But
Yeah.
my Instagram is a good place to go.
Okay. Sounds
Yeah.
good. Sherry Busy Bee.
Yes.
Correct. All right. So make sure you check out Sherry Busy Bee on Instagram. If you want to learn more about Prairie College and what we're doing, you could head to the Prairie College Instagram page as well. May as well follow both of those at the same time. I hope you'll join us for the next episode that will be coming out. We're excited to have these people from the community on the podcast and hearing their stories and their perspectives. So thank you once again for joining us here today. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much, Sherry.
Thanks, Andrew.